Happy Saturday, everyone. Technically the first Saturday of 2025, me doing this. I hope you guys are doing well. Finally feeling better. You guys know that I've been sick. Well, you know what? It's sick and exhausted. So clearly I needed the rest. Who's here? Please put in the chat box who's here. I would love to see who has joined me now. Oh, I knew it, Zoe. How's the weather out there? It must be kind of crazy. I'll never forget what tour you're on. You know, one of the things I'm going to tell you is I will always remember how I met you. Okay. For as long as for now, you know, until like age gets me. But good morning, snowy Toronto. So I showed you guys our snow on my story. When they say snowstorm in the southeast, it's like ice and sleet, which actually could be more dangerous. So I would love to have snow. You guys are probably getting snow there. Hi, Alba in New Jersey and New York. You're probably getting much more snow than me. Linda, however, yes, I'm finally feeling better. Probably a little stuffed up, but yay. Oh, you're back from Miami. Do you see this? This is the beautiful person who got this for me in Nepal. Actually, I'll wear it now because it's a little chilly. So I'm so excited to say hello to you. Lots to talk about. This is the year of inspiration. Hello, Lisa. I decided on inspiration because you guys told it to me. And I'm being serious, meaning it was the word that I heard the most in 2024. Gosh, I'm getting my years confused. But I talked a lot about transformation, but a lot of the personal messages from you guys talked about being inspired. So I remember thinking that would be a good word for 2025 and thinking that early on. But then I thought that's such a, common word. Everybody uses that word. But then I thought, let me go back to what hit me the most, like authentically. And it was that word. So that is why I chose that word. And I also feel like, hi, Vera, Marie. Ooh, Costa Rica. Yay. I was just there, wish I could go back. The weather was lovely. I chose inspiration because it is simple and very self-explanatory. And I think it coincides with me doing belongingness, then transformation, and then finally leaning into what does inspiration look like? How do I increase impact? But also you guys increase your impact with one another, keeping in touch. A lot of you guys have met. I think that's just amazing. So that is the word of inspiration this year. Yes, thank you. Oh, I love discovery. Real quick, if you saw that graphic, a lot of you guys shared your words, but put it in the chat box. Thank you, Zoe, for leading that. Discovery is awesome. Hello from Georgia, fairly close to me. I love everyone saying, yeah, okay, thank you from joining from California. Geez, I'm thinking like 2024 ended kind of difficult. Then 2025 starts difficult. And let me tell you something, with my work, the reason why I know if it's difficult is if I get phone calls, well, nobody calls anymore. When I get emails about how to do some crisis sessions for people in California. And so that's the first request of the year. So I'm working on that in the next week, but that's just always difficult, right? So it has to be California. Lots going on there. I'm talking to folks every day. My immediate family did not have to evacuate, which again is a little abnormal. They're used to that. So that's great that they don't have to, but there's a lot of bad quality air, right? So that's not necessarily good for folks, especially folks with asthma. So lots to think about. Thank you for joining us and for being here. And I think I recognize the name. I'm going to just do a shout out. This person is coming on my March tour. So updates in about 5 weeks. If I did the math, I will be back in Korea. Yeah. And even though our first tour is not till mid-March, lots to do. Even more this year because there's 9 tours. Yeah. Actually potentially more. So I'll talk about that in the future when dates become solidified. And so it's a little bit busier this year. And this year is a really big defining year with those tours, what that looks like. Very excited, but also a little nerve-wracking. So we're going to Korea at least a month before the tour, but I'll talk about this more. I'll probably post on it next week, but I'm going to be speaking. The reason why I'm going earlier or like as soon as I'm able to go, I will be speaking at a global women's conference doing the keynote. So that's really a really special privilege in Seoul. So there are a lot more of those requests are coming in for me in Seoul. So that's why I'll be flying in and within a day, I'll be speaking end of February. So that's exciting. So I wanted to share that. So yeah. Oh, strength. Thank you for sharing your words. Strength 2025. And then confidence. I love it. Do share. And so that's the big update for me. The tour is coming up. There'll be some new things on the tours. So, there's been some new K dramas, like Love Scout is actually the most recent one I'll talk to you about. But Family by Choice, some of those sites are going to be on our new itinerary. Yay, get excited for that. But that means revamping things. So when I say we're switching things around, it's all based on the latest K dramas. And that's exciting. And then, I tell the team, hey, we're going to do this. But I love my tour team because they're like, by the way, we're going to go to this, right? So sometimes they suggest it first. And I'm like, yes, we'll have to include it in the itinerary. So I love that we have those fabulous tour guides that are like, we have to do this. So that's what's going on with that. And then we're adding a new tour. So actually several new tours. Jeju Island is going to be our first tour, our new tour in April. So that is really exciting. And I guess we'll reveal it soon. But since you're on my live, you'll know that, of course, we're staying at the hotel that King of the Land was filmed at. Yeah, I'm just saying. So that's going to be really exciting and lots of great stuff. It's not going to be as, I want to say, physically active. Like we're not going to do like 25K steps. We'll be like doing 20K steps. I'm just kidding. It's the island. So there is, I would say, a lot less busy walking and some more hiking. And what else is there? Then obviously boat riding and just lots of great experiences. So I'm so excited about that because that's the first time we're going to be doing this. And so I can't wait to see those of you going on the Jeju Island tour, which is mid-April. By then it'll be lovely weather. And if you're watching Love Scout, which I'm going to talk shortly about, the weather there, seeing that show, the spring looks absolutely stunning in that show. So it just gets everybody excited to see the cherry blossoms if you're going to be in Korea during that time. So yay, those are my big updates. I was trying to think what else. This particular spring, we will be in Korea the longest we've ever been in. And because there's just so much going on. And so I think we are coming back because number one, we have to and we must because my son graduates. And so there's a lot on my mind that I want to tell you. My son graduates from high school. Sorry, our son. My husband's watching. And I think it's really important to be there. And so we obviously cut out everything in our schedule to specifically make sure we're there for all the activities at the end of the year. But it's going to be literally very hectic. Do his graduation party, and then jet back to Korea for the summer tours. And this year we are doing a particular July tour, a food tour, which we're excited about in the dead of summer, but still very excited for that. So it's going to be a very different year. And my son goes to college. So stay tuned with what college. We're waiting anxiously and hope that he gets where he wants to go. So he also wants to study engineering, by the way. People always ask, what does he want to study? I'm telling you, nobody wants to study psychology. That's okay. I let them study where they want to study. They all went to a STEM school, my kids. So that is probably why they're influenced by engineering, because of the school that they go to. Okay, those are it for my updates. Now I have something to tell you with my mastermind. Maybe I got sick from the mastermind. No, I had a mastermind retreat. What a mastermind is like a core group of people that have the same values as you. Same, I want to say, not just core values, because we can all have very different core personal values, but professional values, maybe personalities align well. You're in very different fields, but you could have similar alignment in like where you're going, whether you're like a CEO and founder or an entrepreneur. And so the group that I'm with, we did a coaching collaborative together 2 years ago, and it just clicked. And I am the youngest, but I'm used to that. I'm always the youngest anywhere, but it's really good group, and it's just very small, which is nice. And so we literally reflected and introspected on 2024 and then planned ahead for 2025, but planning not like a to-do list. So I want to be clear. That is actually more stressful to go, oh my gosh, if in fact I do that already, so I don't want to do that. This was more like, what do you want to see, even manifest or envision? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? That doesn't mean they come true, but it's so nice to share about them and then envision, really boost that, like the serotonin levels together. And then those, the oxytocin of the bonding when you're like, this is what I dream for. And it's okay to dream. And some people go, it's a dream. It's not going to come true. Then you don't want it. Then that's not a dream. So dream and put it down and go, this could come true, or I want it to come true. And that's some of what we did. So I'm going to share a few of the prompts, and I want you to write it down here. because we're going to discuss it in the next couple weeks. So I figured I'd share a little bit about my mastermind. So let's go with the first prompt of 2024's reflection, which I really love. And I'm going to tell you, I had a hard time. But that first question is thinking of your best moments of 2024. And not, it could be 50 best moments. But if you really hone on your best moments, it could be like one or two. And because this question was so pointed, best moments, I was like, what are my best moments? So think about it. I'll share one of my best moments. I mean, I think I had many, but one of my best moments was getting my book published. That was one. And then another best moment, honestly, was there's several of those, but doing cosplays or costume plays or cosplays on my tours. I mean, in real life, we're just acting for fun, but you do them on my tours, and they are fun moments. We feel cheesy doing it, but when do you get to be cheesy? So those are some, I shared that, I wrote that down, and I think that's so lovely to reflect on. It's really a happy moment when you're like, oh yeah, what are my best moments? Because guess what we tend to focus on? Our worst moments. Or I hear a lot, I'm going to move on from 2024, it was terrible. But that's not healthy either, because we can learn from those difficult moments. So what are your best moments? Write that down. Oh, thank you. I love that you're sharing that, Sophie. Your tour in Korea. I have heard that from some people. And even though it's not personally me, but I will say thank you for sharing that, because I guess I was facilitating that and you were there. So I love hearing that. That was one of your best moments, or the best moment in 2024. So write that down and think about it. Feel free to share it here. What do you have a best moment? It could be literally a moment, like something someone said to you, or you doing something, right? Or whatever. But for me, it was publishing a book, that book on, K-dramas and mental health. I feel like there are a lot of books out there, but who would have thought K-dramas and mental health? Best moment from 24, being in South Korea, and especially with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I always hesitate because it's so hard to get compliments. Did you see me go, what? Really, really important. What are your best moments? So that I want to share. Okay, let me go to the next one. Did you write that down? What is your best moment from 2024? That was the first prompt. For those joining, like Carrie, oh, that's early in Hawaii. Thank you for joining. I'm sharing what I did in my mastermind, giving you a glimpse of the reflection. And I want you guys to do it too, because we're still early on in the year to think about what happened in 2024, because it's going to continue to 2025, right? What are your 3 biggest challenges from 2024? Oh, son's wedding and meeting you in Korea. I'm telling you, it was a beautiful moment, and I hope to have more of those in 2025. 3 biggest challenges from 2024. I have my notes here because I actually forgot what I wrote down. The biggest challenges from 2024, okay, I'm going to be admitted here. I'll just share one of them, was running my tours. So that doesn't mean challenges have to be bad, right? You can have doing a tour, like especially the ones that we do, we custom curate them. We change it up even within a week to the next tour, depending on what's happening. That's not easy to do. And so, oh, you took a trip last March and then you're coming back this March. I'm just saying, I'm so excited to see you. Sorry, just got distracted there. But yeah, I want to say that's one of my 3 biggest challenges. But again, not bad. Think about it. You guys have been on my tours. You can imagine all the work that goes into it. So I want to say those were one of the biggest challenges, but good challenge, right? So think about it on your end. 3. They're not asking, like the prompt is not saying 10. Even if you had 10 challenges, list your 3 biggest and just think about those. That was part of the reflection. Oh, working with my boss. Yes, we all know that is very difficult. I've had that too in some of my years. Hence, okay, I'm not telling you to do this. Hence why I exited corporate America. Another best moment is traveling to Boston to see older relatives and spend Christmas and New Year's with them. That's so nice. You were in Boston. That's amazing, Mary. Knowing that loving K-dramas is okay, reading your book and then getting it signed by you and meeting you. Okay, that's like lovely. Like you don't have to say those, but it really, really makes me feel good. Thank you so much. Oh, there's hubby. Hi. How are you doing? Happy New Year. So the 3 biggest challenges, I shared mine. Feel free to share yours. Don't ponder it too much, but it's good to know what those challenges are. Let's go to the next prompt. You can write these down or see this video again. 3 biggest accomplishments. So in the same breath you think of your challenges, please think of your biggest accomplishments. Also, it is mine getting that book published, or a book I never thought I would ever write. K-dramas and mental health, never. If you told me that, yes, that's so cliche. But if you told me I was going to write one when I was like 18, I would have been like, that is so funny, haha. But that is a huge accomplishment for me. And honestly, I think, see, I have to look back at my notes, what else I wrote, because I think it's really important to share your accomplishments. We don't do it enough. There are some people I know who are really good at it, but I think it must be very cultural for me. And I am using that. It's not an excuse. It really is. Like, I was not taught to say, Jeannie, talk all about your accomplishments. No, it was more like, okay, you're supposed to do those, right? So I wrote, publish a book. Then I wrote being asked to be in a BBC documentary. So if you remember, I was in that K-pop documentary. That to me was a big accomplishment. That person found me, this executive producer found me and looked for the criteria. And that happened to be me. That's the one that's filmed filmed in Seoul and aired in the UK. I'm very proud of that. And then my last one was being a columnist for the Jungang Daily, Korea Jungang Daily. So that's how I ended my year. But that happened, I think, when was it? The first discussion call, like mid-fall. That to me is a privilege to write for a Korean newspaper to my community, but I think it'll apply to anybody because the next question I'm answering is a good one, will apply to everybody. And so that is such a privilege. So those are my 3 biggest accomplishments, but what are yours? Think about them. Oh, Marie, my first international solo travel beat my fears and hesitations. I love that. And actually my husband purposely at orientation says, thank you for those of you who came solo. That is huge. Coming by yourself, especially if it's your first time internationally, coming by yourself. Biggest challenge, dealing with the forced retirement, feeling guilty, staying home. You have shared that. And I think that guilt is hard and maybe something that we constantly navigate. Like, I will never say to somebody going, yeah, get rid of the guilt. When you hear that, it actually isn't helpful. The guilt is there, but maybe it's more like getting better with managing that guilt, going, oh yeah, you know what? Some days I don't feel guilty. Some days I do, but don't let that guilt define you because it was forced, right? And what's wrong with also enjoying some time off? We don't do that enough. And so look at it that way. It wasn't the way you wanted, but you could turn it into something wonderful. And I think I remember your story of like, you turned it into finding this community, right? And so that's been a blessing to you. Hope your family, yeah, his family is okay. It's definitely smoky. So those are my biggest accomplishments. So I had to share that with you. Think about yours too. Really important, and write them down. Be proud of what you did. Okay. And then now let's go to, sorry. 3 things that need to be forgiven. I really like this prompt. Let me pause a second. Someone shared getting through the difficulty of having cancer and coming out much stronger on the other side. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that is part of your own narrative now. How did you do that? There's so many people going through that. And I hope now your own difficult experience can be shared. But also know that was hard. Gosh. And I'd love to hear more of that when I see you. 3 things that need to be forgiven. I saw this prompt and I was like, huh? Oh, I don't hold grudges. That's the best thing about me, which is kind of true. So some people do. I don't. I have a quicker temper and I get like mad quicker or like lash it out. And then I'm like, oh, I'm good. What'd you do? I forgot about it. But I thought about this prompt, and the reason why I get why it's needed to be asked is there might be things that happened last year that you carry onto this year. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do that, but there are ways to, in some sense, have that. I don't want to say let go because that's kind of trivial too, but maybe work through that so it doesn't define your year. Like, so you don't carry on this burden of resentment, bitterness, which is a lot that can happen, right? And then those carry through your decisions. So I think it's really good to be aware of those things that need to be forgiven. I'll share one of them. I did write it down. I remember seeing this prompt and going, oh no, I have nothing to forgive. No, but I went, you know what? Yes, I felt a little slighted by, I want to say, an organization and who I didn't feel valued me. So I'm saying it out loud and I realized, wait a second, that is how I felt. So maybe I need to forgive that. And if there's a lot of assumptions that it could have happened, things through email, right, that are misunderstood. And so I think and plus everybody wants to feel valued. And maybe at that moment I didn't, but I had to admit that. So this way, as I admitted it, I don't have that same resentment going into this 2025 year because I did. because I was like, do I want to work with this organization? I'm really serious. So I wrote that down, and it made me realize, going, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm harboring some resentment there. What happened? So, or what made me feel like that? And so that I was kind of breaking that down. So what are three things? That's just one, but there may be three. There only might be one, and that maybe there isn't one, but it's good to kind of process that. Vincenzo proves that Italians are hard for us to forgive. So are Koreans, right? And so and again, I say that, and nothing is good or bad. That's just the fact. But that's not necessarily healthy, as you can see in the K dramas, when someone's so full of hate and bitterness and resentment. You see what happens, and it eats you up. Maybe that's you too. So I think that's really, really important. So I really like that question. And that's what I'm ending 2024 on. So I hope you like these prompts. Just take note of them. It might be something that'll help you reflect. Let's go on to 2025. So I'm giving, for those joining, I just am going through my mastermind of the things I processed and the things I envision for 2025. So let's talk about 2025 inspiration. My word of the year: dare to dream big. Yes, write down your dreams, your hopes for 2025. It can be like 50 things. I literally had 2, and I'll share one of them. One of them was how to be a thought leader, particularly in the Korean entertainment industry. And I don't know what that looks like, but that is a dream that I'm slowly seeing happening. But I think it's because I want to help my own people. Do you know what I mean? And there's so many times, like, communication is a big issue because there's nuances in the Korean culture language wise. But then even if I understand the language, there's also nuances in behavior. And even now in 2025, so many things have changed. The slang out there and little new innuendos that even my parents, who grew up in Korea, struggle with the slang today. So can you imagine me in the business world of Korea, and I'm like trying to understand, I'm like watching all these nonverbals and trying to understand what's going on to help. It's difficult, but that is a dream I wrote down. I think it's a very plausible dream to figure out how I can help with so much I have to, like, there's so much I want to say. Do you know that in the Korean meetings, because it's all in Korean, I'm a little bit more quiet because things don't just blurt out in Korean, right? In English, I'll be like, excuse me, hold on, I want to say something. But in Korean, I'm like, what are the words I want to say? It's a little more difficult, but it helps me observe better. So I'm watching and I'm like, ooh, I could definitely respond to that mental health wise, but it's harder to find the words. And plus, just so you know, in the Korean language, mental health lingo ain't really there. So I'm like, what's the word for therapist? Do you know, if you ask somebody in Korea the word for therapist, now I believe there is a go-to, but I mean, even now people are like, what kind of therapist? Like, I go, my kind of therapist, licensed mental health therapist. There's not a word that people go, duh, this is the word. They're like, you could say this, or you could say this. So can you imagine how hard it is for me when I'm speaking in Korean or trying to explain a mental health issue? And I'm like, this, and they're like, no, because there's not quite a word like we have in the US. So the US is far more advanced. So I'm kind of on a tangent, but dare to dream big, write your hopes and dreams. Let's go on to the next prompt. This is for 2025. 3 things I would love about myself. Don't you love this question? Like, and I will love, that's the will is very important. Maybe it's something you're like, don't like about yourself, but then you realize maybe this could be an important thing. Let me tell you mine. One of them key that first came up for me was that I will love the fact that I am a trailblazer. Now, people would think, duh, that's a great thing to love. But do you know, there's so many times I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, no one thought of this. Like K-drama tours, or no one thought of K-drama's mental health, or no one, like, I'm in that circle a lot. And I'm sitting there going, and I get frustrated because I'm like, do I have to do it myself? Well, you know what? I will love that about myself. So I think it's really important that I love that I can be a trailblazer. I am a trailblazer. And that means frustration because no one's done it before. So I have to do it myself. So it's a lot more overwhelming stress, but it's okay. So that's what I'm doing. Are you licensed or getting licensed in South Korea? So their licensure is very different. But there's ways of me helping in Korea, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily clinical. So there's ways of me training people and teaching. That's how I'm thinking. But getting licensed, I believe, is complicated. in internationally, and they don't quite have that right now. But I believe I can look into that. I haven't even thought about that actually, to be honest with you, because the way I'm doing it is I'm teaching a lot. And you don't necessarily need to use your clinical license for that, if that makes sense. I just have it all up here. But thank you for sharing that. Meeting Kongyu in Jeju. Oh, is that like a hint? Interesting, Sophie. I didn't even put that down. Actually, I should put that down. Celebrities I want to meet. I just realized that. Maybe because I've already met some of them, but no, I didn't even think about that. Kongyu would be a good one. Stay tuned. So 3 things I love myself, that big one, that I am a trailblazer. And then, so I think of these new ideas and I guess I have to do them myself. I will love that. Okay, so think about that for you guys. What are the 3 things you'll love about yourself? Let's go to the next one. This is for 2025. I'm on 2025 now. 3 things I'll discover about myself. That's different. What will you discover about yourself? I got to look at my notes real quick because I'm pulling up, because I wrote all this online. What are the things I want to discover about myself? I'm looking at my notes. That's very important for you to think about. What are the 3 things you want to discover about yourself? Okay, so see how I don't remember? Oh, I will discover that I can, hold on a second. That's my next one. Sorry about that. Let me pull up my notes. What are 3 things you want to discover about yourself? Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. This is what I said. Huh? That's so funny. You're going to laugh. Okay, this is me being real. I will discover whether or not I can do Pilates. Okay, so I hear Pilates in my life in the last 20 years. I am a cardio person, so I'd rather run, swim, and bike than do any kind of stretching. But the older I'm getting, that is the advice I'm getting from like doctors when you do physicals, and I always get hurt or like something aches. But I'd rather walk 1,000 steps or like up the hometown cha-cha-cha steps any old day than sit there stretching. But the older I'm getting, I'm realizing that's what I need. So I literally wrote down Pilates because everyone I talk to tells me I have to do it. And here's a fun fact. I think I have a little bit of like post-traumatic stress because I was made fun of in this exercise class. If you did Pure Bar is this like bar, like, when you're holding a bar and you're stretching. I did that class, I think over a period of like 6-8 months, like pre-pandemic. And I was so inflexible. The instructor laughed at me. It wasn't like, it was actually, we all laughed. I laughed too. Cause I was like trying to do like this. And she's like, go a little further. And I was like, this is all I can do. And she's like, what? And she's like, I go, yeah. Like, I think I had 4 kids and it just stopped me. So I'm being funny, but I want to discover that I could be flexible because I think that's really important. And that's what I wrote down. Pilates. I love this. Strength physically and mentally. Yeah. So I wrote that. So that's not to share. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. 3 things I will say no to. This is easy, but I want you guys to think about this. Saying no is not easy. Actually, I will tell you the truth. Saying no is actually pretty good for me. I'm really good at it now. But what I need to say no to is feeling bad afterwards. Okay. So I will say no to something, no brainer, even to family. Nope. And then afterwards, I have such FOMO or whatever you call it, going, oh, but maybe I could have. Or I'll see something going, oh, yeah, I should have done that. Does that make sense? So I want to say no to that and be like, if I said no, I should just mean it and really be able to move forward because there's a reason why I said no and have those boundaries in place. So that's the one thing I want to share with you. That was the one main thing. I mean, I wrote other things, but that first thing, I want to say no to feeling bad about something I said no to. So what's yours? And I'm glad you love these prompts. Just think about it. Think about it every day and then it could change, but write it down. Write it down. It holds you accountable to those words. I'm training for the steps in Korea. Yay, me too. Yeah, people don't think, yes, I do. I train walking the dog. It's a lot of walking, but good walking. And you'll feel good. You know why? Because you're with other people who are also struggling up those steps. It's all about the belongingness. So even though I've done those steps now, I don't know how many times. Each time I'm like, okay, so next day we're going to be doing these steps. But you get up there. So think of it as like, this is what I say to people, building your resilience. It sucks when you're training for something or when you're going through a hard time. But when you look at it afterwards, you're like, oh my gosh, I got through that. And when we're at the top of the steps, seeing the boat and when the weather's clear and beautiful, you will be like, oh my gosh, this is so worth it. Yeah. So hopefully you guys know that. You want to start learning Korean seriously? Yeah, do it. It's hard. It's probably one of the hardest languages, I think. And so let me move on. So 3 things I will say no to. I said FOMO, from feeling bad. Exactly. Saying no to feeling guilty for taking care of myself. Exactly. I think we have to go like navigate that constantly though. This year I'll draw the most energy from, guess what I said? Myself. That sounds silly, but I'm an extrovert. So I gain energy from you guys. But I wrote down from like my own meditation and mindfulness. It's not hard to practice mindfulness and meditation, but to really draw energy in myself, I need 2025 to be the year where I define a lot of things. It's a very critical year, actually. Last year was a year of transformation, of doing new things. This year is making some decisions. And so I'm going to draw energy from being alone more. I actually do love being alone, believe it or not. It's just that I don't do it often because I'm an extrovert. But I really want to be able to be like, let me be by myself, figure out what's best, right? And yay, thank you. The word definitely was worth the climb. Yeah, this is the hometown cha-cha-cha steps. We'll always talk about them. And then I want to draw the most energy from myself. So maybe yours is from people. It could be wherever that is. Think of where you want to draw the most energy from. That is such a good question that I didn't make up, by the way. And it's really important to think about that because people or things can suck the energy out of you. I know that I can identify very, very quickly. So that's that next question. Now let's do, I think there's one more. What's the next question? I love, oh, is that the last question? Oh, okay. It is the last question. See, I don't remember these questions. That's the prompts. If you guys wrote it down, I'd love for you to just remember those. By the way, that's just a fraction of the prompts that we went through that I will also share with you guys. So you're going to get a glimpse of my mastermind with you, and you guys can do it with one another. And the best thing is doing it with somebody else or other people to hold you accountable, or just to be like, to affirm you, to even go, you know what? I got some great feedback. You know what, Jeannie? Yeah, I do see that FOMO or whatever that is. It's great feedback. So really important. I will be drawing energy from my creative outlets. Yes. And BTS comeback. Yes. And army relationships. Love it. We all know the army relationships and the K-drama relationships, K-pop fandom. There's such specialty in that. By the way, when I was sick, when I was in bed for 2 days, I thought you would think I'd turn to K-dramas. No. Guess what I turned to? BTS videos. To this day, like I literally played them and went through probably not even half of them okay, I'm one of those people that will rewatch things I love. So I think I've rewatched like a lot of things too. But I thought it was so funny. It's not funny, but I thought it was so interesting that I was like, no, I don't want to start something. I've already watched some. I already know that I'm in the middle of new K-dramas. I'm just going to turn to BTS videos, run BTS, for instance. Really good stuff. I cracked up silly. Yeah. And by the way, I can't help but analyze each of those members on each of their things. And so I love it. So I just had to share that with you. So you understand that as ARMY. Okay. So that is it for the mastermind. Keep those prompts in mind. The scarf keeps coming off, so I'm going to take it off, but I love it. Let's talk about now the Q&As that I got. Okay. Oh my goodness. So much Q&As. Okay. Let's go through the first one. How would you define the K factor? So I think there is a K factor, right? You put a K in front of anything these days and you get what it is. K beauty, K dramas, K pop, K food. There's K tour, K culture, K tours. It's kind of cool. So there is a K factor, and I think it's neat. And globally, if you see the response now, some of you know what's going on politically in South Korea, or in K-pop people's lives, or actors' lives, Korean actors' lives, or Korean stories out there, anything like that. That is what I mean by the influence globally. And I wanted to talk about that K factor as in just overall the theme of this year, what that looks like in our own lives, as some of you are coming on the tours, some of you getting more excited about this being the year of BTS, which it is. So I mean, it's super cool. So what does that mean in your life? It's kind of cool to see all that. 30 years ago or plus some, K was like what? I think I shared this in my TEDx. Actually, I didn't think I did share this, which I'm waiting for it to be published, guys. So keep hoping that it publishes soon. That they approved it though. So that's good. That, yes, healing with laughter. Oh my goodness. Do you know how many times, but then I would replay the video, play. I'm one of those repetitive people that crack up on one scene. I shared that people didn't even know what Korean was. So It is so funny. It is amongst the biggest joke among Korean Americans. We're like, hey, remember when people thought we were Chinese or Japanese? And I'm not trying to be mean. That's literally what it was. And now you see K, and everyone knows exactly what that stands for. I keep talking about that because it is still not quite like, it's very hard to still kind of grasp, because even in the circles that I'm in, when people are like telling me about things, I'm like, what? How do you know that? And these are people non-Asian, non-Korean. And so that's the KFactor, and there's such a big influence, and it's just beginning. And some of you guys are just getting a glimpse of that with BTS coming back, right? So isn't that exciting? Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next one. Next question. The last episode, When the Phone Rings, I wasn't gonna include it, but I'm like, I will, because we were all talking about it. So my opinion was it wasn't surprising. I just thought it was not edited well. Like, so if you read the web novel, it stuck true to the web novel, even if that was far-fetched. It came across really far-fetched, because I was like, you know what was missing? I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing that was missing in episode 12, or the final episode, was his point of view. So everything was he disappeared. So I know a lot of people were upset with that, but that was technically accurate to what happened in the web novel. But and maybe understandably, because there was a lot of trauma that he dealt with. Think about it. But we never really saw his point of view of why he went to that imaginary country. Well, it's imaginary to you and me, but why he fled, and then we just saw them get back together. So I think what was missing was maybe in the first half, yes, he goes there, and maybe that's like, oh my goodness, what's he doing there? And then that unbelievable scenario. What might have helped is that them going backwards. Remember how like K-dramas do that? Going backwards like an epilogue, and going how he came to that point of deciding, oh, it's best for me to leave. I'm not ready yet. I'm going to disappoint her again. Or that's a lot of what the thought process was. But we didn't see any of that. We just saw him there. And then that heated, hot scene, and that discussion of like, why are you here? That I felt like, that's my opinion. So I just felt like, oh my goodness, they just skipped. I was waiting for it, going, oh yeah, they're going to share why he like left like that. No. And so you see her perspective, but you didn't see his, which I thought was very unusual, because they showed his before. So I think that's what was missing. That's my opinion. I think if they had that, we might come to a better understanding of why he ended up there, why he left so abruptly, or we thought was abruptly, and why he didn't show up for 6 months. So that's my opinion. But otherwise, and then yes, there were some things mentioned politically. I'm going to tell you now, Korea's response to that is that they love that ending. So that's just shows you a very different response than globally, And so I think that's very interesting. I just had to share that the two different responses globally versus Korea. Korea absolutely loved the ending. He caused her more pain. Yes, of course. So I think it would have helped me. Well, this is me, in my opinion. If we had seen how he came to that point, that doesn't mean we have to accept his decision, because obviously we're all like, what the heck? You took that long to get together. But then at least go, oh, so that's what you were thinking, right? That's totally missing. Like, we didn't see his opinion at all. Behind the lines. Yeah, it was. Everything was given behind the lines. But that was my opinion. So anyways, I still love the drama. But yes, definitely episode 12 was like, everyone's like, what just happened? So that's my opinion. So let's move on to the next one. But I did love it overall, and it had a phenomenal response in Korea. Okay, how do societal expectations and cultural norms of South Korea influence the character arc we see in K-dramas? Completely influence. That's how you guys learn about the culture. You see, people talk about guilt here. Guilt and shame are such defining elements in the culture, but I also think in many cultures, for instance, working moms, right? Or even like in-law families, and people like daughter-in-laws or son-in-laws, or sons and daughters who feel such burden if they're not doing enough, right? So that is not just in Korean culture, but you see that amongst the people, right? If we're going to talk about When the Phone Rings, I mean, that dramatic move of him leaving, which everyone's like, oh my goodness, that's so terrible. Nobody disagrees with that. But then you understand, is that the guilt, or even the shame, or honestly his own trauma, which I really wish people could understand. I couldn't get past the confusion storyline the last few episodes. I think people would say there's a lot of holes. I think because I read the web novel, or I skimmed it as best I could because it was long, that I get it. There's so much more written in like a novel, in a book, that the K-drama missed. So maybe it would have been better if it was like 14 episodes and slowed down a little bit. But I totally get it. A lot of holes, like, why is this person in this? Why is the fisherman here? Yeah, all those questions. But relating back to this question about the character arc, don't you see that common theme? The struggle for doing good for the family, feeling guilty, feeling burdened. Also, a lot of things because they don't have the money or they need the money. You see that that is also very cultural. It's a lot of those norms of trying to be the best and cover up those emotions. Oh, that my favorite thing is very like stoic, right? But and then you see their backstories. They have to show it in a back way. I think Brewing Love was the most recent one I can think of where you saw him be very expressive. He's like an empath, right? That's unusual to see. And then yes, he was made fun of by his family. I think that was kind of cool because you saw it openly. The way K-dramas do it, which is so societal and very cultural, is to hide that, and then you see their backstory. Part of it's the intrigue that we love, but then that's what you see in a character arc going, oh, that's why they're like this, or that's why they did it this way, right? And that is what we like about it. But sometimes I get annoyed when I'm like watching it going, you can't just say that, right? But then you can't just say that in the Korean culture. Do you know how many times one of my other biggest challenges working in Korea is where I'm like, you couldn't just tell me that. We'll find out something 6 months, like husband and I find out something 6 months later, and we're like, you couldn't just tell me that you couldn't do it, or you couldn't just tell me you felt bad. And I said that, and they're like, oh, but we felt bad for telling you. You know what I'm saying? So cultural, but it could have solved a lot of angst. So that is what you see, the angst. And there's a question that's coming up that I'm going to answer that has a lot to do with this. If you could recommend a K-drama character as a role model for self-care, who would it be and why? Self-care model, I don't like to think too hard because, by the way, that's just my thing. When people think too hard about something, you're trying too hard and then it doesn't become authentic. So when I saw this question, I went, I'm just going to go right to the person that came to my face, the K-drama character, and that is Dr. Cha. If you saw Dr. Cha, it was 2023 now. She reinvents herself after being a stay-at-home mom for years and going back to medical school. That's who came to mind. Self-care is not necessarily just about the things that we imagine that would be self-care, which is like healthy and, exercising, all that stuff. It really is making difficult choices like going back to school because you want to follow a passion, or deciding after your kids grow up, even if it's hard for your kids. You see so many scenes with her daughter where she's like, yeah, I'm going back to school, or like, I'm not going to be there for you because I'm going back to school. I love that. And so I think I've related to that. And so this is me. That's my opinion. I thought it was a great role model of making a very difficult choice later in life to literally reinvent yourself and start from scratch. And she did. And so what's your example? And think about that. Who is a role model for you in self-care? Such a good question when it comes to K-dramas. Family by Choice did a great job of sharing. That's true. You're right. Good point. Family by Choice. Yeah, why does it seem so long ago that I saw that? But yes, there's so many that do. If you have some other examples, please share, because sometimes I'm like, I wish they would get better at that. But that's me coming from a critical lens. So Dr. Cha is my role model in that sense of self-care. Not just because they're a season of her life, but she made tough decisions for the sake of her own well-being. And that's what self-care looks like. Okay, so let's go to the next one. How do K-dramas portray the concept of Han, and how can understanding this emotion help international viewers? I briefly mentioned in my book, I am not an expert in Korean history or Han per se, except just understanding how that emotion, how I've seen it in my own family and how that looks like in the Korean dramas. Han is a complex emotion. I would say it's not bad though, because people refer to it as like grief, deep-rooted sense of bitterness and resentment, a sorrow, but also that Han, think about it, when you're going through a difficult time, can get you through something. So the Han of Korean history is like, it was such a oppressed country. But then historians will argue with you saying, but that's misunderstood. Han came about post-colonial times, like after Japanese occupation. They said that's when the Han came out. Some people are saying it came out before, like in history, in Korean history. I'm not here to argue either side, except how I see it. And I do see it presented in the Korean dramas intergenerationally. I see it in my own family where there's like this unspoken thing where you don't talk about certain things, right? People say that's also trauma, but that's also the Han of like, I don't talk about it, it's too emotional, or I don't even want to deal with that because there's such a deep rooted sense of loss, right? Han is also, as you see in the K dramas, of Poksu. So, revenge. You know how many revenge things there are in K dramas? There has a lot to do with that. Like, I was wrongly accused, I was wrongly treated. We all relate to that because we all feel that. But so I'm going to be clear, Han is a Korean concept, but we all experience it in our own lines of different ways. In fact, if you come from an intergenerational family of immigrants, you kind of get what I'm talking about. That Han of how hard it was for them to start a new life, whether it's in America or some other country. You see it. And I see it in my own parents. And sometimes I feel it myself. And now the younger generations, like, not so much me, but the youngers, like millennials and Gen X or Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen Zs will say things like, my Han is the education system in Korea. And I crack up when I hear that because it's different. Their Han is very different. Theirs is not about surviving. Our generation and up was more about surviving, right? It's surviving a new country, surviving a war-torn country and leaving that. So the Han is very, I would say, a form of resilient, but also a very complex emotion. But I don't like when I hear some newer people saying it doesn't exist no longer. I don't agree with that. I really believe it's still in the history. So you see it in young people today because they see it in their parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles. I myself still see it and experience it. I myself harbor some too, because I am a technically, well, second generation, but really first because I was born in Korea but came here. But I relate as second generation because I was a baby when I came here. But there's all that Han too, and that experience of like, we grew up in the West, but my parents feel like they're still in the East, right? So there's a lot of that like struggle because I felt like my parents didn't quite understand what it was like to grow up as an American, right? Or as a US citizen, very different. So that concept's so hard, but you see it in the K-dramas. And I do see people understanding that concept, but I'm by no means an expert, except emotionally, it does exist. And you see it in the halmonis and the harabachis, and you see it in some of the stories of K-dramas. Move to Heaven was example of such sadness in like a veteran. There is that sadness, but sadness is not always bad. There's sadness because of something happening, but that sadness could lead to, I don't know, someone using that to leave a new legacy. So I always say nothing is black and white, even though that's a tough emotion. Hopefully that was the way, sharing that. Exactly. A lot of Asians will understand that concept, but I also want to be clear. I know a lot of families, generational families that I work with that are non-Asian that understand that concept. There's things in our histories that were difficult. That Han is there, but Han with any kind of sorrow brings hope. Let's be very clear. Remember those dialectics I talk about? There's always bad and good and evil, right? Love and hate, they all exist coinciding. I just gave myself a virtual pat on the back knowing that Poksu meant revenge. Yay! I know. Sometimes I say things in Korean and I'm like, what did I just say? They go, what word did you just say? I'm like, oh, did I just say a word in Korean? That's happening more and more. I'm having a harder time separating when I'm in the US. Thank you for sharing that, Vera. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So that's my best way of explaining Han. It is so complicated. How does the portrayal of shared meals in K-dramas reflect Korean culture's emphasis on community? Do you know that some people don't quite feel loved, or they feel there's like a conflict in a family. You get together for a meal and like all is forgiven. That's the emphasis on food. You see a K-drama, it's in every K-drama. Eating, or that typical, I'm going to put food on your plate. You're eating a bowl of rice and someone puts like the kogi, the meat on the rice thing, and it's a big deal. Yes, I've experienced it. And it is it's hard to explain. It's like you're mad at somebody and then they serve you this beautiful dinner and then you kind of forget about it. I want to say Korea's emphasis on food as a form of love, or showing that love that they can't verbalize, is healing. Because there are moments where you're just like mad at somebody and then they bring you food. This is in the Korean culture and in real life. And you realize how powerful it is. Do you know when I remember, what are those things when people help you with meals? The food chains, like when you have a baby or something. Those were some of my fond moments. that had nothing to do with my family, but those are showing love. So it's not just in the Korean culture, but very powerful in the Korean dramas when you see them eating in real life, when you eat over a meal, there's a lot of shared camaraderie and conversations and healing. The first thing people ask you is, did you eat? It's so true. Like sometimes, actually, I get more irritated by that question because I hear it a lot. I know it looks so cute in the K dramas, but I'm like, when you hear, did you eat? I'm like, yes, I just ate. I just told you I just ate, right? But that's just me being sometimes ungrateful. But yeah, it is a very healing process that Koreans lean on because they just don't know how to say, I love you. They're getting better at it. And especially like my generation and younger are getting much better at it. But you have the older generation or even some people my age who struggle with that. So they're like, you know what? I don't know how to show love, but I can make a meal or I can do this or like, give you frozen food. Like I see in my freezer when we come back from Korea, my mom giving all this frozen food that we still don't even get to is that healing way of showing love the best way they know how. So that. Same with the emphasis on fruit and cutting up fruit for people or bringing it as a gift. Yeah. I mean, I think food is like one of the best gifts. I don't know about you, but I love when I get some sort of like gift card with food, even coffee, right? And so it's very, very meaningful. And I guess healing is the word I can just tell you. And so the things that we see in the Korean dramas, a lot of things are unsaid. Even though I see it in the Korean dramas, I think it's a little bit more dramatized in the Korean dramas with showing love and saying love. It's not always like that today in today's households. It's actually still a little bit awkward, even in my family. And I'm sitting there going, it's a little awkward, but then you see this food or all this generosity in food and making the food and nobody sits down in the kitchen because they're busy cooking. That's love. So that's and that is such an emphasis on community. By the way, it's so legit in Korea too, to like share all these panchans and bring it over. And whenever my mom shares something, I'm like, oh, Amma, this is really good. This genip, which is like perilla leaves. She'd be like, and I'll be like, I know my mom didn't make it because I don't think she makes it like this. And she's like, oh, Mrs. Black, like Lee brought this over. I still see that today, in their US home. So that they do that all the time in Korea. So that is just their way of showing community. And Reply 1988 does that really well too. The have you eaten yet phrase in Korea responds with me as we have that in Cantonese too. It can be the same loaded question. Exactly. And I'm just admitting to you because there's some people who are like, Jeannie, but I love that question in K-dramas. I think it was Lisa on my tour. I remember she asked us, she's like, pubin, like pubin, like what about rice, right? Or what about food? And it cracked me up when she was asking me about it because yes, we do hear that. And it's like, as an ungrateful child, sometimes I'm like, I just told you I ate because I'll say that person, I just ate. I don't eat anything. I don't want anything. And then the thing is, you still end up eating because if they want to serve it to you, you should, especially in Korea. So like half the time, hubby and I are like full and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to eat this. So we'll be like, yes, it's delicious. And make sure you slurp those noodles because if you don't slurp those noodles, they don't think you're enjoying it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm making sure I slurp my soup so they know it's good because that's all legit in Korea. Again, the sound you make when you eat. Very Latin American too, specifically when you leave the nest, moms tend to send you back home with lots of food. Exactly. And I do expect that when I leave my mom's house. I'm like, where's my food? So yes, Lisa, I remember that because I was cracking up inside because it's the very question. I'm like, yes, I ate. How many times do you have to ask me, right? Okay, so the next question. There's a lot of K-dramas about single parents. How realistic is this in society? This is going to be my best answer. Family by Choice. Most recent one, right? That was very, very clear on single parenting. Love Scout that I'm really enjoying right now, also single parenting. That is not as realistic. Now, realistic as in what you see, because of course there's single parents in Korea in society, but that doesn't mean they show it. Does that make sense? I do know of some single parents and they tell me they have to not verbalize to folks that they're divorced because there is still a stigma. And I'll be honest, I do still even see the stigma here in the US, depending on the preschool you go to or school you go to. So it's still very similar, but a little bit more pronounced in Korea, depending on the school your child attends, or whatever circle you're in. There is that stigma if you are a single parent. So the fact that I see this in the K-dramas, I think it's cool. And I think it's realistic that it's there, as in, they exist. And I think it's a nice positive portrayal to see. So some of the things in Korean dramas where when people go, oh my gosh, that's so unrealistic. Why are you watching that? I do argue that. I'll be like, you know what? Remember, scenarios don't have to be all realistic. It's a drama, but the emotions of a single parent's realistic, or even a scenario where a single parent's trying to become the next CEO as a single parent is realistic. A lot of it's more realistic than not. And so I think, to tell you that that is still a very difficult thing in Korean society. I actually sometimes get sad for some moms who tell me, yeah, they have to not share that they got divorced. And unfortunately, in Korean society, it really does look bad on the female. So I think in US, it's not like that as much, actually. Well, because as a therapist, I'm thinking of the cases I worked on. Sometimes things favor the women, actually, or the moms, not so much in Korea. So that is my best answer to that. But I love that they're writing those narratives in, because I think it's really encouraging to see. And hopefully for those single parents, it gives them like, okay, encouragement and hope. Even if they don't see that in real life, they can still hope that they can be this kind of person for their child, or have the friendships, or even work hard and all this stuff. I think that's all still good. So that's my best answer with that one. Oh, oh my gosh. I'm going to be talking about Love Scout. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. How have K-dramas helped global audiences understand and appreciate Korea's cultural identity? I think I kind of answered that in my book. I love that Korean dramas, or also K-pop. I also have to attribute K-pop. In fact, a lot of K-drama fans were K-pop fans first, and vice versa. They have come to really appreciate Korean culture. Do you know that I could argue with anybody to this day, because I have a lot of backup knowledge now. When someone goes, yeah, it's trending, Squid Game and K-dramas are trending, or K-pop or BTS is trending. I'm like, okay, they're more than a trend, right? And then one thing that also irritates me when people go, oh, are they just like into them because they love BTS? I go, the people that I have met, every single one of them, or every single one of you guys, or people who are really are avid fans, or watch K-dramas, or understand what BTS means to them, or even other K-pop artists, the meaning of their lyrics and songs and who they represent. They go deeper than that. You guys find out about the culture. Some of you are in Korea for that reason. So I get very irritated when I get questions from the journalists going, yeah, so, this trend. I'm like, what trend? This is not a trend. These are people who will come to South Korea because they have come to love the culture from the examples that they see with the artists that they love, or the dramas that they watch. Do you know that I learn so much from you guys when you guys go, oh, by the way, Jeannie, I am reading this book by Han Gang, but I think some of you guys have read her books. I'm trying to get through The Vegetarian. It's very difficult because it's very heavy. But I love how you guys are like, oh yeah, I've read all her books. I'm like, what? That is what I call the answer to this question. The appreciation runs such in depth of learning that you just said that you're trying to learn Korean. Some of you are in advanced levels of Korean and can read and write so beautifully. That is my answer. I seriously think it's wonderful. Yeah, K-dramas are just Squid Game. Oh yeah, now I think it was actually like 2 years ago when I decided, you know what, because I had to think about this. If I get irritated on a media question, most of the time they're recorded, so it's okay. But I don't not show it. I actually show it. I'm like, yeah. So I get irritated with that question. I've said that before. And I might have said that live once a couple times, because that is the truth. I get irritated, or when someone said to me, oh my gosh, did you start K-dramas and mental health because it's like such a trend? I'm exaggerating. That's not how they asked me, but I get that a lot. And I just went, well, if you read my book, you would know that I started watching them when I was 18. So no, I didn't just, so that kind of thing is so much part of my identity. So I love how you guys also understand that. It's so much more than that. But you know what? I now don't have to explain it as much, but I still do. So to answer that question, for those of you, the fact that I'm doing 9 tours this year, South Korea, tells you something. The interest of the culture and learning, not just to see your K-drama sites. You guys, that's just a fraction of what I see. Some of the questions I get on my tours, I'm like this. I don't know. I have no idea. Ask my tour guide. Or I'll look at my husband going, do you know the answer to that? I love when you guys ask me that, because I'm like, I never thought of it. Or one of you guys or not one, all you guys will notice things in South Korea like, hey, so what's this tile mean? I'll be like, I have no idea. They're like, "But don't you go to the site like each tour?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I don't know." That is the appreciation and understanding and the depth of that. That's all I'm gonna say. And I love that you can eat kimchi with your meals. Yeah. Sometimes, especially hubby will have to have it with like fettuccine alfredo and spaghetti kimchi, just saying. So I is that it with the questions? Because now I'm gonna just talk briefly some K-drama deep dives. Let me get to okay, so hopefully that helps you guys. Yeah, I was gonna try to end this within an hour. I always say that. Okay, K-drama deep dive. It's not really a deep dive, but when the phone rings, I just want to share this. What was I gonna share actually? I did really enjoy this K drama. It did very well globally. I mean, globally and in Korea. The chemistry was good, except you're right. The last maybe couple episodes went a little bit had a lot of holes. I think they kind of probably had to rush. It does feel rushed because I really think it is rushed. Like I really think they are given a limited number and that's what they have to do. So I kind of feel like I feel bad, right? But I think my main one with that one is what I really liked was the fact that they featured her. There's selective mutism. I was just going to bring out. There is a real thing when you go mute because of a trauma. Hers was more forced on her, but I really like that they showcase that because you guys are seeing some K dramas where they show people who are mute. I think that is nice to see. There is that representation there, and some people are not mute because they were born like that. Some have to do with the trauma, and there's a lot of trauma in our histories, right? And I'm talking about this because as I get deeper into like Korean culture and in my business and stuff, you meet people that have decades of trauma from hiding in the Korean War, you know? So that was my main thing with that show that they showed that. And she learned, I think, for like, it didn't take her too long. It's not hard, but she had to learn both Korean Sign Language and American Sign Language, which is very different. And actually, my husband said this that he thought Korean Sign Language, maybe he's being biased, was more beautiful the way because it's different if you compare. My husband used to work with the deaf and hard of hearing, so he kind of knows what that looks like. And so I thought that was cool. And I just wanted to point that out that they highlighted that. That was the first drama I could think of where it was the main thing. Tell Me That You Love Me was another one that showcased that, first and foremost. Spark, is it Twinkling Watermelon? Twinkling Watermelon did that as well. But this one really, it was a big part of her. And then the fact that she wanted to continue doing that. So she loved doing that as a job, which I really liked. My deep dive into K-dramas has changed my relationship with my Korean mother-in-law for the better. You have shared that. I love that you shared that, that it helped you understand your family. I think it helps us understand our families a lot. Help me understand myself as well, I felt that most K-dramas are shorter, that 60 episodes always get the rush feeling and leave too many holes. I feel like the longer is always has the space to tell the stories completely. Yeah. I think it has to do with budgeting these days. I mean, I know a little bit about what's happening inside in the industry, and it has a lot to do with budgets, right? So they're going to shorter time frame, unless they have a big budget, like a Netflix original, or like a Squid Game, right? What else is a Netflix original? Like things that drop. All the episodes that drop at once are Netflix originals, so they have more budgets, so they can be longer. I was gonna say something about When the Phone Rings, but I did really like it, and I think their chemistry, which I hadn't seen in a little bit of a while, was really good. Everyone's agreeing with Michelle. Yes, lots of holes. I think episode 10 is where they started having a little bit more of the holes when we saw the backstory come out with the main guy, Yoo Yeon-suk, who, by the way, I really like. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I know I had something else to say. Squid Game 2. Okay, why am I talking about Squid Game 2? Disclaimer, you don't have to watch it. A lot of you guys asked me. I watched it. It was special because I watched it with my 4 kids and my husband. We binged it in 3 days in Costa Rica, and it was really fun to watch it. And my kids are really loud. I thought I was loud and stuff. Yeah, my husband's the quietest watching something. They will say stuff. We're saying stuff. Half the time they just said, "Mommy, just watch," because I do comment and stuff. But in that sense, it was good. But yeah, the last 2 episodes, most of it, I closed my eyes. I might even left the room on some of it. But what I liked about this, I'm going to tell you, I like this better than Squid Game 1. A lot of people disagree. Squid Game 1, I could barely watch it. And then I was so disturbed, I had to like watch Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha afterwards, like an episode. This one, actually, maybe because I was with my family and it wasn't, aside from episode 1 and then the last couple, it wasn't as deeply disturbing. The concept is still disturbing, don't get me wrong, but there are moments in there that I thought I saw really good things that I thought, gosh, that's humanity, which is rooting for each other. You see that? Not rooting for each other to die, rooting for each other to get through something. And that was a really good moment in episode 5. But then the other part of humanity is not necessarily killing, but literally thinking someone's evil. And so you want them dead. Do you know what I mean? And that would be murder in real life, but you don't commit that murder, but you think like, oh my goodness, they're out to do the most harmful thing. And you saw that in Squid Game too, except it resulted in killing. So my whole point of that drama that I really liked was that it showed better than Squid Game 1, which was a little bit more vicious, the two sides of humanity, which really exist, which is it can be so beautiful. And then like beautiful as in even in California, where you see people coming together in times of crisis to help one another out. That's the encouraging thing. But then the terrible thing is you can see people canceling each other in a drop of a hat or just mean things happening because of politics and all this stuff. That is the other part of humanity. And Squid Game shows that, which is why I think it's very insightful. So I really like that, but really watch, if you're going to have to watch something, close your eyes through 1, but then 2, 3, 4, 5, and even, no, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are pretty easy to watch. By the way, you know why it's also special? And our kids loved hearing this from their dad, my husband. They're like, daddy's like, oh my gosh, I played this and I did this. And then they're like, huh? It's kind of cool that people my age, not me, because I didn't grow up as a child in Korea like my husband did, will say, yeah, I played that. Now I've seen all those games, of course, but my own husband actually played them. When you're playing Squid Game, like Ojingo game in real life, he's like, it is a little creepy watching it, but I see the nostalgia. So I think that's a little bit some of it of this generation watching it. And you're playing the Kongi game, which by the way, I never was good at. Can't even do any of that. Maybe Dakchi, like that. I feel like I could do that, but all those are childhood and even some adult games. And that was kind of fun that my kids, I'm just sharing this culturally, what it's like when they're like, you did, and then, you know, the rock, paper, scissors. If you saw episode 1, you know what I'm talking with Kong Yu doing these crazy rock, paper, scissor game. All of that is also, we still do to this day. We'll do it to like, who's going to have the last bite in our household or something. All of that is fond memories. And so that's why. And love seeing TOP. I know. I mean, it was fun. And then they brought in the transgender. Yeah, they brought in different characters. I actually love the character of Hyunju and her relationship with the girl that, no spoiler, never mind. But I really liked those poignant moments. Of course, I'm going to look at those. And so I think when we watched episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, I was like, oh my gosh, I really like it. Yeah. And then I spoke too soon and saw 6 to 7. I was like, oh my goodness. But that's my 2 cents on that. Again, two sides of humanity that totally exist in real life. So seen in Squid Game too. Let's move on to the next one. What was the one? What's the one I was going to deep dive? Oh, K-drama Rex. Okay. Rented in Finland, which I was so busy watching Run BTS videos when I was sick that I forgot to watch this, but I'm enjoying this. This is so funny. This is a variety show with, first of all, I love Lee Jae-hoon, but after watching this, I was like, wow, he really doesn't know much. It's like the 4 guys from, you know what I mean, the Vincenzo actor, drawing a blank on his name, but he was also in Queen of Tears. And then the guy that I love from Reply 1988, but he's in a lot of movies now. And then Cha Nu, of course, right? Watching them in Finland doing all this really cool stuff and trying to like eat and cook and working together and building fires and stuff that is just so funny. It's a really relaxing watch and I highly recommend it. So I wanted to put that in there because some of the variety shows, sorry, I'm fixing my laptop, just fun. They're fun to watch. And I feel like Koreans are so into that, like cooking in the wilderness with very little ingredients, you know, and not, you know, and like, what's that one where they're house on wheels or 3 days, 3 meals a day where they're like, they have to get the food from the countryside and cook. I think that's actually therapeutic. It looks like they're having fun, but also can be stressful when they're messing up a meal or, you know, it's late at night and they're tired and they haven't showered. But I love watching it because it's like, it's real life and then it's fun. And these are your favorite actors that you're seeing a different side of, and they know they're being filmed, but I still think most of it's almost all real. They probably have to edit like a lot of stuff. But from what I know, my short experience doing that documentary, a lot of what you see, what I saw video edited and then what I saw in real life was real because they're trying to get that authenticity. So it's just fun watch. I mean, I think I'm a few episodes behind, but it is just funny to watch. And I'm watching, yes, They're all cute. Chanwoo, of course, but I really like Lee Jae-hoon. So I'm just watching him going, oh my gosh, he didn't know how to do that. So it's just funny. That's my recommendation. If you want to watch something very simple, have it in the background. You can actually kind of multitask as you're watching. Oh, well, I guess if you're reading subtitles, but it's still fun to watch if you have to do something. Okay. The next one is Love Scout. Okay. I'm going to end on this. Absolutely. Okay. You know why I really like it? A lot of the things that people are seeing, 3 meals a day with the hospital play last kiss was, I don't think I saw that one. I just saw the ones with Tegu, but I didn't see that one. I have to see that one because there's so much that I have to see. But yes, I love watching them. It's teamwork, team camaraderie. They're actors, but they're not when they're doing this, and it's really nice to see a different side to them. Love Scout, you know why I like it? The guy reminds me of my husband. Not saying that Han, what is that? Han Jimin looks, Han Jimin, her character. It's not like I'm that character, but I really like. It just reminded me of that, and of course, who doesn't like that? But you know why I like both of them in their own ways. What I really like about her too is she worked hard. I'm not quite done the latest episode, but it's nice to see a portrayal of somebody who kind of had to start from the ground up without me giving too much. We love those inspirational stories. And then him, it is, again, a K-drama, but a very refreshing portrayal of who said the gender dynamics are different, right? One might think, oh, when you're seeing the previews, you would think that he was the CEO and she was, the assistant. No. And then he is more than that, right? He actually is what I see right now as the glue in the workplace. So we all know his backstory. If you're watching this, I highly recommend it. Really good work dynamics. From what I see so far, because I love observing the work dynamics, good examples to learn, even as they're working through conflict. And I also love the fact that he is observing. So you know how you learn the most? It's called nunchi. I had to bring that up and end on that. He has a lot of good nunchi. His nunchi is fast. He is watching her because he has to. He's trying to figure out who she is and how she takes to be well, but he's actually watching her to learn how to best do his job. That's kind of cool. And you don't have to do it in an assistant role. You could do it in your own role. How to watch somebody you work with, even if you don't like them, or you report to them, or they report to you, to figure out what makes them tick. That was what I'm getting out of it. I watched him watch his coworkers, and he's like, I see, that is what's making them tick. That's nunchi. That's kind of like, I don't have time to observe people, but in sessions or in a workshop, I will observe you as I'm speaking, seeing, oh, that person's not looking at me at all. Like I'll make notes of that going, I wonder why they seem uncomfortable. And I'm saying this as I'm speaking, but my own nunchi would go, what I'm talking about is uncomfortable for them. If I'm talking about like, burnout or something, maybe they're burned out. So I'm just giving you these little things. Watch him. Yes, you're all watching him for the really cute factor and the guy thing. I totally love that. But I'm also watching him as an employee. Like I really like that. And you know why I also think it relates to my own life? Because my husband's really good observing. Some of the clumsiness that she does, like I cracked up. So I think some of you have seen me on tour. I'm pretty clumsy. I don't know if you've observed it, but yeah, like I have bruises from bumping into doors, breaking things. So even in the first episode, I cracked up so much from her because I was like, oh my, that is so funny. Yeah. Like I need little things to cover the desks, like a baby-proof thing, the baby-proof tapes, because I hit things because you know why? Look at her. She's in a rush. The Korean term is like kupe. Always like kupe. She has to do this. She's a CEO. She's busy. That I learned from. I'm like, no wonder that she's doing. That's the very thing that I do that I wish I didn't do. Like bump into things because I'm in a rush just to get out the door. What's the rush? I just cracked up. Now he helped her out by baby proofing stuff in her office, but that I just related to. That's my own deep dive on my own self-awareness going, yeah, I could slow down a little bit. What's the rush to get out the door? It's like 1 second more, Everyone's all going to the name of the variety show is Rented in Finland, and it's on Viki. Love Scout is on Viki. Love Scout, I guess they're calling it Love Scout because they're scouting. That's their job. They're in HR. What is that? Headhunters. But the Korean term is my perfect assistant, my perfect secretary. So sometimes I'm like wondering, why they just don't call it that. but I think that was the name of another K-drama maybe. But it's interesting. That's what it means in Korean. Look at the Korean titles. It really is very fascinating, their original Korean titles. I like the way he's observing, being mindful of her instruction to only do what she asked him to do, as his personality would be naturally to go above and beyond what's expected of him. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it's in the latest episode, so maybe I won't share it. But he observed her looking at something and wanting something. I think that's good nunchi. So we all can use a little bit more of that in our life, meaning don't take things as face value. If someone goes, I'm fine, that is my job. When people go, no, I'm fine, Jeannie. Yeah, it's all good. And I'm observing, or I'll see like some nonverbals, like they kind of stuttered when they said that. Or I'm like, my gut's telling me you're not really fine, right? So that's nunchi, and he is really good at that, not just with her. Watch him observe his coworkers. And that is why, and here's my last thing to say about this, that's why he's popular in the drama. He's so popular with his colleagues. You know, normal people in the work dramas are like, oh, we don't like you. That's what we tend to see sometimes as the drama in K-dramas at workplaces. They all love him and appreciate him because I think they can sense his nunchi and understanding of let me observe what's going on. I see the dynamic here. He obviously is more than an assistant because we know what happened on his backstory. I'm not going to say anything more. Is when the phone rings, same in Korean? Oh, what is it in Korean? Let me look at that. No, it's, you know what? Actually, it was very similar. Yes, sorry. It is somewhat similar. Yes, in Korean. Much better than some of these dramas. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how you got the title. Nunchi. So I'll end on that. Thank you for bringing that up, Cindy. Nunchi, I do see Nunci. I just don't agree with it. I don't understand why it says that. That's like nunchi to me. So I like phonetically spelling something the way it's phonetically sounded. Like if you say nunchi, which is the Korean term, then I would rather you put two O's because that's the way you pronounce it. Does that make sense? I see nuna also Noona more than Nuna, but you'll see both. But then some people who don't really know the word will say nuna like nana, or and so that's just me. And sometimes you'll see like tteokbokki, like the two D's or two T's. I'm not gonna, say, but that's like I'm like, why can't they just do two D's? Because it's D sounding. So you'll see me do that. If you see me do that, it's because I just do it based on how you say it in Korean. So I'm just gonna spell it my way because I'm like, that's how you pronounce it. So nunchi to me is Noonciachi. Highly recommend that one. And I'm also watching When the Stars Gossip, but I didn't put that in there because I'm not sure how I feel about it. I like the cast. Who doesn't? I do love Lee Min-ho's character too. Love seeing him in a comical role, but I'm still trying to be like, let me figure out, not quite seeing the chemistry, but great actors. That's like a star-studded cast. The leads, I love Kong Hyo-jin. So people ask me who my favorite actress is. It's her. The one in When the Stars Gossip, When the Camellia Blooms, Master's Son, you name it. I adore her. So I'm really watching for her. And then Lee Min-ho, but I'm just kind of like, what I got to figure When the Stars Gossip out. And that also the word, I think they do have like stars, but I don't know if it's gossip. So again, look at the Korean title and translate it. Oh yeah, see, so I just said it, Vera. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I'm going to continue watching. I'm not going to stop it. A star-studded cast. Oh Jung-se, the guy who plays, he was in Mr. Plankton recently. Absolutely love him. And he plays such different characters. So even in this one, he's different. I love him. And I will say, I also got to meet him in real life. I'll show you his picture. I think my husband adores him. He has a great picture with him. And he is very unusual in real life. Like he's eccentric in real life. But really, really cute. Like I kind of actually chased him because I wanted to say hello to him. I think I chased him to the bathroom. So that's the only person I chased. But Oh Jung said he's the one in When the Stars Gossip who, if you know him, he plays like I don't know, not the antagonist, but he's the other guy that Lee Min-ho is kind of fighting with in there. And he was in Mr. Plankton most recently. He was in It's Okay to Not Be Okay. He played the autistic brother. So I love it. Yeah, you just realized it's nunchi. So I'll end on that note. This was so much fun. Thanks for sticking with me for like an hour and a half. Any other questions? I hope you liked the prompt. If there's any other dramas you want me to watch, I do want to start checking on Hanyang. I heard that it's a popular one. And then there's one coming up, Trauma Code. I want to watch that with Oh my God, drawing a blank. Ju Ji Hoon. He's in Light Shop and gosh, what is that? Light Shop just recently. Oh my gosh, Love Enemy, Love Your Enemy. Sorry, seeing a poor Imino. Well, is he poor? He's still a doctor. Just saying, but I guess yeah, he lives very differently. I think it's refreshing. We're always seeing him as like the rich guy and mean rich guy or like cold rich guy. So I do think his character is actually really funny. So that's actually probably why I like it. Anyways, let me know if there's any other recommendations. Thanks, guys. So next week, I still want to get together, we'll probably talk about other things, but I'll have more prompts. So I will put up those prompts on my stories, but let me know what you think. There are great things to think about, and that is a glimpse of the mastermind. And maybe you want to do your own with your friends and or tour people or book club, whoever that is. It's really, really great. Okay. Oh, Motel California. Yes, I did see that. So there's so much to see. By the way, I only usually watch one. So the fact that I have evolved to 2 or 3 is huge because I like to rewatch and rewatch. Yay. Thank you, Linda. Thanks. Thanks, Chris. I'll see you in March soon. I'll see you guys next week, or I'll see you in stories. Bye, guys. Happy Saturday. Carrie, I want to be in Hawaii. It's too cold here. Bye.